Alright guys, so today for our media demonstration video, we are going to be using markers on our Nutcracker drawing, and it's just super fun. And I've got, as you can see, I've got all of my brightest colors out. I did save gray in case I needed to make some shadows on his white beard and his white hair. But of course, if you want to have blacks and browns and things like that, just make sure you have them nearby and handy. But really, you're probably not going to need these colors too much for the Nutcracker this time. So I'm going to put mine aside and just use all the brightest colors I have. Remember, if you like us or share our stuff on social media, I will send you one of these magnets and a personal note. And it's a nice thing to receive during the holidays, and I just hope that you'll help us out and share our information with your friends. All right, guys, it is time to get started now. So we are using markers, like I said, with the Nutcracker. And so I know that you guys have seen markers and know how to use markers, but there's a couple of techniques that I think, it's always wise to review and make sure you're just trying your best to do those things. So sometimes it's a good idea just to have an extra little piece of paper laying around. Like I just happen to have this little one right here. Oops, it's like a miniature version of my big paper. And so I want to talk about a couple of different ways to use markers. So I take this red, and you see that it can make a really thin line, right? But if you hold it on the side, you see how my hand is towards the back, like I'm actually holding it in the middle, and I can make a much thicker line. And so it's a really good practice to practice making thin and thick lines. So I recommend that you just try that. But also see how well you can do by making long lines that overlap a little bit with the thick lines. See how nice and neat that looks? You can also practice making some short lines that are, thin or even long and thin. So this is just all good practice. And I don't want you to practice on your real drawing, but you can always get an extra piece of paper and practice. And you can see it just looks cool already. So you can do that with any color, but what I want you to also think about is how it may look really good if you overlap other colors over top of it. So this is a purple, and so what I'm going to do is I am going to take my purple now, and I'm going to overlap some of the red, and you can see that that looks pretty great. And so this is just a really good challenge, a fun challenge, to sort of get in there with your markers and say, what can I do to make this extra special? And so you can always just continue to overlap. A really good habit is to put a lighter color over top of a darker color, for example, like that. And you can see that that already looks pretty great. So there's a lot of shades of pink out there in this world. And if you have different sets of Crayola and different sets of crazy art or different types of markers, you're going to have different kinds of pinks. It's also a good idea to just kind of familiarize yourself with what kind of pinks you have. So that's called hot pink. This one's called hot magenta. Look how different they are. It's almost like a purple. And this crazy art is one of my favorites. It's a really light pink. And we have this one. It's just called plain old pink, but look how dark that is. So it's also a good idea to just use your scrap paper to say, well, I've got a lot of different shades. It's good to know what they are before you experiment on your real drawing. But also, I want to show you one more thing before we move on. So for example, we know that this is a dark pink. And just say, for example, you were coloring like this. Well, it's not horrible. It's not exactly a scribble, but it's not filled in either. And so one thing you can do is take a lighter color of the same shade and just go over it. And when you do that, it just makes it look really, really nice and filled in. And so it's just an option. It's just an idea. You can do this with all of your colors. So you can say, well, it's fun to do on a cold day like today, a kind of a cold, rainy day. Say, well, what are all my greens? Okay, and then experiment with them. What are all my blues? What are all my pinks? Different things like that. So even though you might know how to use markers, it's really good to learn about just ways to experiment so you can make yourself an even better artist. That's really our goal here, is to have fun and to increase our skills so that our drawings get better and better. All right, guys, enough talking. It's time to do some coloring. I'm going to do this in time lapse. want to come back and do a little chat with you at the end to wish you a happy holiday and also point out some of the things I'm going to do in this drawing today. Here we go. All right, guys, so this is such a fun drawing. I really love doing this. I hope you guys are having a great time too. So a couple things I want to point out to you before we close for today. I think you noticed at the very end I did a shadow with gray, and I decided to put the shadow all on the left side. So that's something you can do. It just makes it look extra cool. Just choose the right or the left, but then just kind of stick to it no matter where you are. You can see it's on the left side here, on the left side of my character, on the left side of these candies. It's just a cool thing. It makes it look really neat. Also, you don't have to color the entire thing. You see all the white parts I left? It still looks really great. Also, I wanted to show you guys, I'm sure you can see it, but this Nutcracker is not in the traditional red and blue, but he's in green and yellow. So they're so much fun to draw. You can draw them over and over again, and you can make them absolutely any color you like. One thing I did forget to mention in the very beginning is you might need some skin-toned markers, and so there are lots of different skin tones out there, so I recommend for sure getting the multicultural markers so you have choices. That was probably something I should have mentioned in the beginning, but I realized after I got started that that was important, so want to make sure I added that. Also, guys, I just had a lot of fun. I gave him brown eyes and pink cheeks, and I just tried to kind of color coordinate his whole outfit. It looks really great. So don't forget to put your name and the date on the back. You're going to want to remember when you did this, my friends. And you should write Nutcracker on there just because someday you're going to want to see your own handwriting. Okay? So use those test papers. Get all your markers out. Make sure they're working. Make sure you know what color you have. That's going to give you a really great result. All right, guys. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Thank you so much for drawing with me. When we come back after the break, we're going to draw a snowman with some birds, and it's going to be a really nice drawing as well. See you then.